Hello, and welcome back to my channel. Today I'm going to talk about all the books I read in the second half of March. Once again, welcome back. I'm so glad you decided to click on this video. So you'll notice that I split this up into two parts because I got to the 15th of March and I had already read 11 books. So I thought that was probably a good time to stop because otherwise this would be a very long video at the end of the month. So now I'm going to just kind of wrap up the rest of what I read. I will link above the first video with everything that I read from the 1st to the 15th. And it's wild. I was trying to figure out where I needed to start this video because I couldn't remember what the last book I read was. And some of the books that I read in the beginning of March, I'm like, I don't even remember. I don't even remember them, which is just wild. This month has felt like it's never ending. But nevertheless, here we go. Let's go ahead and talk about the rest of my month. I finished 8 more books on top of the 11 I have already discussed. So pretty solid month, a total of 19 books finished. There were 2 that I DNF'd, which I will actually probably talk about at the end of the video. Just not to trash them, just, you know, so they're counted as pages I did read. So with that, let's get into it. All right, so starting the second half of March, I read Mothered by Zoe Stage. This I gave 3 stars to. It is a psychological thriller horror kind of book that is set during the pandemic. So it is about a woman named Grace who has always kind of had a strained relationship with her mom, Jackie. Grace is having trouble paying her mortgage, and Jackie volunteers to come move in with her so she can help out with that and other stuff around the house. But they've always had a kind of strained relationship. Grace did have a twin when she was growing up named Hope, who passed away, and she had cerebral palsy. So she kind of, from Grace's point of view, had a lot of special treatment from their mother. There was not a father in the picture, nor anyone else that was really doing too much to help. So Grace was meant to do all of that. And a lot of weird stuff keeps happening. Grace keeps having these kind of like lucid dreams that are freaking her out. And Jackie ends up accusing Grace of something off the wall. And so it kind of goes from there. This was a good book. I mean, it definitely held my attention for the most part. Like I said, Grace has all these lucid dreams, and it's kind of bonkers because you're like, I feel like half the book I'm unsure if this is a dream or real, and like I don't want to remember something wrong. It was a little weird. It was a little unclear on how you were supposed to remember what was what was going on and what was like just in her dreams. Like when I say there were a lot of dream sort of sequences, there were a lot. And they all start off like these are things that happened. So it was a little weird. Other than that, I thought it was a decent book. It definitely held my attention. It's not too long, and I don't know. I feel like this author has kind of a knack for writing some kind of strange subjects about like weird familial relationships. I haven't read it, but I know she wrote a book called Baby Teeth, which is about like a creepy kid or like a mom who just like is like, my kid's messed up. Something like that, which I do think sounds really good. So I think I would read that, but I haven't. So anyways, yeah, for me this was just kind of average, but might be a book that you would like. The next book I read after that was called She Started It by Sean Gilbert. Oh boy, this was not the book for me. I gave this 2 stars, and I actually finished reading this and just went on a whole rant on my Instagram stories about it. Which is kind of embarrassing. Maybe I should have done that. I don't know. But it was not the book for me. So this follows a group of 4 women who are invited to a bachelorette party in the Bahamas at like a private island by a classmate of theirs from grade school. Not someone they were friends with, someone that they relentlessly bullied. And they're all like, yeah, let's go. Which, to me, first of all, why would you go? Why are you not questioning this? Like, if I was invited, I don't think I bullied anyone in school, but if I had, I would not, I mean, I don't even want to really hang out with people I was friends with in elementary school. I haven't maintained those relationships. And if someone invited me to their bachelorette party out of the blue, I would be curious and probably proceed with caution as to why they suddenly wanted to be my friend and hang out. But these girls all decide to go, and bad things happen. People are dying. So I have already gotten into my ranting already just by trying to explain the premise, but this was just so bad. And not just in like the plot. So there were 4 main girls and then this other girl that was, her name is Poppy, the one that invited them all. The 4 main girls, I really couldn't even remember who was who because they had no distinct personality traits. They were written from exactly the same sort of voice. It was so bad, like, especially because I got to a point where I didn't even care that I didn't know who was who. I was just like, oh, just get me through this book. Like, I truly did not care who was who and if I kept them straight. So that's not a great sign. In addition, the plot was just bad. It was just off the wall. The ending was so ridiculous. I'm sure that this has somewhere an audience, someone maybe who's brand new to thrillers and loves unlikable characters could like this, but other than that, like, I just don't think this is a good book, and I don't think I would recommend it to anyone, even if they do like those things. There's better stuff out there. I gave this 2 stars because I cannot bring myself to give anything 1 star that I finished reading. So that's what you get. Next, I read The House of Eve by Sadeka Johnson. This was for my book club. I really enjoyed this. So I've discussed it a little before. This was by the same author that wrote Yellow Wife, which was one of my favorite books of 2022. This is quite a bit different in certain ways. It follows 2 women who at first are very separate. There's not a connection in their stories. One of them is a college student in Washington, D.C., who meets this man who is studying to be a doctor, and they fall in love and get married. She's from a lower class family, and he is from like a very prominent Black family in D.C. This all takes place in the 50s and 60s. Yes, it starts in the 50s and then it goes from there. The other storyline is about a girl named Ruby who lives in Philadelphia, and she is younger. She's like in high school, and she starts to form a relationship with a Jewish boy who is the son of their landlord, her and her family, her grandmother that she lives with. Ruby is very, very intelligent. She's driven, and she's on track to be the first in her family to go to college. And once she gets involved with this boy named Shimmy, she ends up getting pregnant, and she has to decide what her hopes and dreams are worth, if her love for him and their future child is worth giving up maybe her future, especially because neither of their families would be really okay with this. In the other story, the woman named Eleanor, I didn't say her name before, she gets married to this doctor, and they keep having trouble conceiving, or she has several miscarriages. And so they start to think about maybe like adoption. There's so much more nuance to it than what I'm describing. This doesn't really make it sound like it's that different or anything special, but I really did enjoy this. I had a little tiny bit of an issue at the end of the book, but saying what that is would be a big, big spoiler, so I don't want to reveal it. However, if you've read this and you'd like to discuss it, please feel free to send me an email, send me a DM on Instagram, because I really had strong feelings about something at the end that definitely didn't like ruin the book for me. I gave this 4 stars, but it's something that I feel strongly about, that I've thought about a lot since, and I did vent a lot to my book club about it, but we had differing opinions, so I would love to, maybe talk to someone who might see things the way I did. Next, I read Forget Me Not by Allison Derrick. This is a YA contemporary that I had never even heard of until it showed up in my mailbox. And before I talk about the book itself, can we talk about this like cover? And it is just so gorgeous, and it's the same underneath, like stunning. So anyways, this is about two girls named Stevie and Nora. They are from a very small town in western Pennsylvania where they are not free to be who they want to be. They are in a relationship, but it is like a secret. They like literally nobody knows. They don't have their phone numbers saved in each other's phones because both of their families are very conservative and very much like like this is just not something that they could even do. And in order to make sure that no one finds out, they don't even act like friends because they don't want anyone to think like, why are they so close and such. So one day they are hanging out on Nora's family's farm, again in secret. She lives on a meat farm. Is that? So they're out like way back in woods that no one can see, and Stevie falls and hits her head, and Nora takes her to the hospital, but when she wakes up, she has no memory of who Nora is and no memory of their relationship. She's lost the last 2 years of her life. And it's very weird because they had plans, you know, like in a month from then when this accident happened to move to California and be together. And they'd been saving money for years to have enough money to just like leave their families, leave their lives behind and go. And all of a sudden, Nora is like, she doesn't know who I am. She doesn't have any memory of us being in a relationship. So basically, Nora has to slowly get over Stevie while maybe also trying to get her to fall in love with her again. It's really, really sweet. This book was so good, so sweet. It tackles a lot of interesting issues that I think a lot of maybe people who grew up in a small town feeling like an outsider could really relate to and could just feel seen by. I mean, I don't really read a lot of YA at this point in my life, but this was absolutely gorgeous. It was perfect. I loved it. This was definitely 5 stars. I really recommend this to anybody. It was great. The next book I read is Only the Beautiful by Susan Meissner. I know I discussed this book a little bit in my upcoming April releases video, but this one was just perfect. I didn't even think I was going to be able to get to it in March, and as soon as I made that video, honestly, I was just like, no, I'm gonna prioritize this. So here we are. It was great. It was a 5-star read. It's a little bit different from, I guess, what I kind of thought it would be like. The first half of it follows a girl named Rosie, who is the vine dresser's daughter of a vineyard where her parents have worked for her whole life, and her parents and her brother die in an accident. It's a tragedy, and so the people that own the vineyard take her in as their ward. She ends up pregnant, and, you know, obviously she's struggling. Something of note is that she has synesthesia. I think I'm saying that right. It's where you hear noises, music, whatever, and you see shapes and colors, and it's not like anything that is harmful in any way, but of course in the 40s, people thought that was like some delusion. So she ends up going to, once she gets pregnant, going to this home for the insane, essentially, because of this disorder, I don't know, condition. And she's like, I don't belong here, I don't belong here. And so she has her baby, and then of course they take it away, but she's like, you can't take my baby, because it's horrible what they did. I don't want to get into too much spoilery stuff, but things aren't great for Rosie. We'll say that. She wants to run away because she's like, oh, I have to stay here even though my baby's been born. So then we get a different point of view. The point of view of the vineyard owner's sister, who has been an au pair in Europe for a long, long time. She's met Rosie like 2 or 3 times when she came back, but they occasionally would write letters to each other. So she is au pairing for a family in Austria, and one of the little girls is physically disabled. She was born with only 3 fingers on each hand, and she has some trouble walking, but mentally she's all there, and she's just a bubbly, happy kid. The father of this family ends up becoming a Nazi officer. He is basically put in a situation where they're like trying to conduct this mass race, and his own daughter has disabilities. So it's really sad. It's really rough, and but then, of course, towards the end of the book, this all comes together and makes a lot more sense. But honestly, Susan Meissner, she just knows how to write a book. She knows how to transport you, and she really is incredible at finding stories in history that like you might not know, like just making them accessible and bringing them to the forefront of your mind. I mean, I could name off the top of my head probably 10 World War II historical fiction books, and while this one, yes, is set during World War II and is historical fiction, not like any of the others I've read. So I definitely recommend picking this up. It was so good. The writing is so good. The story is just so well done. And I think that if you like historical fiction, you'll love this. If you've read any of her previous books, you will love this. This was 5 stars. Recommend. Next, I read Alection by Tom Perrotta. This I've had for a little bit, and I loved the movie with Reese Witherspoon and Matthew Broderick. It's from like the 90s, and I really enjoyed it when I've seen it, so I decided to read the book, and the book was really good too. There's not a ton to say about it, honestly. It's a dark comedy about a teacher who ends up losing his job because of a high school election, and it's mostly focused on the teacher and his sort of like family situation, and then this girl who's played by Reese Witherspoon in the movie, Tracy Flick. She is like a go-getter in school, and she is like the epitome of the class president, and so she's running, but then this other teacher kind of sponsors a candidate of sorts who is like the football captain and all of that, so to go up against her because he just like doesn't like her. It's really good. I liked it. Super short book. I listened to the audio for the most part, and it was like 5 hours, if that, and I listen, faster than that, so definitely a quick one. I know that a sequel came out like 2 years ago, which is about Tracy Flick as an adult, where she's like running for like school board or something, so I think that sounds fun. I'll probably read it after I finish my next audiobook if I can find it. Yeah, I liked this. I think I gave it 4 stars. It was good. It was definitely dated a little bit. Some sort of language and scenarios that are perhaps not as accepted today. And when I say that, I mean like it's not okay to be against such scenarios now as it was in the 90s, I guess. So anyways, it was a little interesting just because this is an older book. So it was, and it's set in like 92, I think. So yeah, it was interesting, and yeah, definitely some differences in things we do and say. Next is Those Empty Eyes by Charlie Donnelly. This was a bonkers thriller that it just kind of, it got in my head. So this follows a girl named Alex who wakes up in the middle of the night and finds her parents and her little brother dead, and she gets accused of their murders, and they really don't have any evidence. They really don't have anything to hold her against except that she was found by the police holding the gun, but she was like comatose. She had empty eyes. Like she really, you understand how she got this gun. She was like, saw their bodies, walked into the bedroom because the parents were sleeping, and like picked it up and was just like staring at it and was just in shock. So the charges are dismissed. They never really find who really did it. They kind of like stop looking essentially. And she ends up suing the state of Virginia for defamation because like her entire life was ruined basically. She's 18 years old when this happens, so she has a lot of living left to do, and she's, despite being the charges dismissed, she's still being accused of being a murderer, and true crime fanatics and such are like stalking her, and Yeah, I don't even know how to explain this book because there's like 5 different timelines, there's so many characters, but it all fits together. I feel like I'm just gonna leave the synopsis there just because like there really is like so much going on in this book. It all makes sense. It all ties together. You're gonna read it and like there are definitely parts when you're like, who is this person? Why are we being introduced to a new character? But it's certainly not so much that you forget who's who, but you are sort of like, how are all these people related? But you find out they are. I definitely liked this. I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was really good, unique, and the chapters are like hella short, so you can fly through this. I certainly flew through this book. I think it's something that people will like. If you're interested in reading this, I will be doing a giveaway on my Instagram on the 18th of April, so definitely check that out if you're interested in winning a copy. And the last book that I finished this month is A Half-Baked Murder by Emily George. This was just so fun. This is a cozy mystery about a woman who was a pastry chef in France and got dumped by her fiance, so she moves back to her hometown in California and is kind of getting her bearings, just figuring out what she wants to do. And her aunt suggests that she open a cannabis cafe in their little small town in California. And she's like, what? But she ends up coming around to the idea. All that aside, when she comes back, she ends up sort of being aggressively pursued by a guy she went to high school with who gets a little bit physical and she shoves him off. Well, he turns up dead. She had filed a police report about this incident where he was kind of trying to force himself on her. So she doesn't initially become a suspect. Her aunt does, who she's very close to and is almost like a mother-sister figure to her. She was raised by her grandma, so her aunt was also like a pretty strong figure in her life. And yeah, so her aunt becomes the prime suspect, and so she sets out to clear her aunt's name, and I really liked it. It's a cozy, so it's pretty predictable and fun, but I've really been enjoying cozy mysteries on audio, so I did listen to most of this on the audiobook. I thought it was great. It was so fun. I don't know, a lot of the corniness I think that can come out in cozy mysteries was not there for me, and like I read another one, Against the Current, a couple months back that I felt the same about. That is to me the difference between a good cozy and a meh cozy, is like how realistic does this have to be? Not super, but it has to feel like these are real people. I don't want someone that's just like a super, she's gotta have depth. There's gotta be like some personality in the character. So I definitely found that in A Half-Baked Murder. I will definitely continue the series, and it's cute. I mean, I am a flight attendant. I do not partake in cannabis. I get drug tested. But for those that do, there are like really, they have like little recipes in the back of the book for like CBD chai latte, cannabis infused butter, special salted caramel brownies. Like, I don't know. I thought that was fun. So definitely something to check out if you like a cozy mystery, and maybe check out the recipes if that is something you partake in. So those are the 8 books that I finished in the rest of March. Like I said, I did DNF too. I'm not positive if this is like a forever DNF or if I'll go back to them, but one of them is The Deja Glitch by Holly James. I read a book by her last year called Nothing But the Truth, and it was such a like surprise joy. I gave it 5 stars. I absolutely loved it. Unfortunately, this one is just not doing it for me. It's a time loop book, but the time loop is kind of boring and lame, and I'm just kind of over it. And the other book is Murder Your Employer by Rupert Holmes. I was enjoying this for like the first half. I'm probably like 57 to 62. I don't know why I picked those numbers, but I'm over halfway through it. I'm just like lost interest. It just feels like kind of boring at this point, and there's just, I don't know. I just found myself not wanting to pick it up, like wanting to listen to music instead of listen to the audio, which is how I was reading this. And so usually I'm pretty always into my audiobooks, so the fact that I was just like so not interested in picking it up kind of led me to think maybe this is just not working for me anymore, and like DNFing is totally fine. I always support DNFing anything that's not bringing you joy. So for me, that one's probably a forever DNF, but you never know. You never know. So I would love to thank you once again for watching this video. If you read any of these, let me know in the comments. I would love to know your thoughts. I would love to know how many books you read in March. I'm pretty sure we can all do simple arithmetic, but my final total was 19 books finished. And then, of course, my 2 DNFs. That would probably bring me to a total of like 20 if we're going by pages read, but we're not, so 19. And I'm very pleased with that. According to Goodreads, I'm 1 book behind schedule for my goal of 200 this year, but I have no doubt that we'll hit it. We'll do it. It's so early. So again, thanks for watching. If you liked this video, give it a thumbs up, and I would love it if you would subscribe if you like my content, and I will see you in the next one. Bye!